Emily's eyes rolled back into her head until only the whites showed. Her body lifted off the bed, hovering 3 feet in the air while her mouth opened impossibly wide. A voice that wasn't hers came out, deep and scratchy like grinding gravel. "She belongs to us now," it said, and then Emily started laughing, a horrible sound that echoed through our entire house. Mom screamed and Dad dropped the Bible he was holding. I stood frozen in the doorway of my sister's bedroom, watching the girl I'd shared a room with for 12 years transform into something I didn't recognize. Her neck twisted at an angle that should have broken it, and those white eyes turned to look directly at me. It all started 3 weeks ago on a normal Saturday afternoon. I'm Jake, I'm 14 years old, and Emily is my little sister. She just turned 12 last month. We live in a small town in Massachusetts called Bridgewater with our parents, Robert and Susan. Emily and I have always been close. We play video games together, watch movies, and sometimes she helps me with my homework even though she's younger because she's really smart. That Saturday, Emily asked if she could go to her friend Madison's house for a sleepover. Madison lived on the other side of town in an old neighborhood where all the houses were built like 100 years ago. Mom said yes, and Dad drove Emily over around 5 o'clock. I stayed home and hung out with my friends online. Everything seemed totally normal. Emily came back Sunday afternoon, and at first, she seemed fine. She told Mom and Dad about the fun movies they watched and the pizza they ate. But I noticed something weird. Emily kept staring at the corner of the living room where nothing was there. When I asked her what she was looking at, she jumped like I'd scared her. "Nothing," she said quickly. "Just thought I saw something." That night, Emily had a nightmare. I know because we share a room with bunk beds, and her screaming woke me up at 2 in the morning. She was sitting up in the bottom bunk, crying and shaking. "Jake, there was a man in our room," she sobbed. "He was standing right next to your bed, just watching you sleep." I turned on the light and looked around. Nobody was there. I told her it was just a bad dream and she should try to go back to sleep. But I could tell she didn't believe me. The next few days got stranger. Emily stopped eating her favorite foods. Mom made spaghetti and meatballs on Tuesday, which Emily usually loves, but she just pushed it around her plate. "I'm not hungry," she kept saying. She also stopped wanting to hang out with me. Usually, she'd bug me to play games with her or watch her favorite show, but now she just stayed in our room with the door closed. On Wednesday, I came home from school and found Emily standing in front of the bathroom mirror, just staring at her reflection. I watched her for almost 5 minutes, and she didn't move at all, didn't even blink. "Em, you okay?" I finally asked. She turned to look at me, and for just a second, I could swear her eyes looked different. Darker somehow. "I'm fine, Jake," she said in this flat voice that didn't sound like her. Then she walked past me to our room and closed the door. Thursday was when things got really scary. I woke up in the middle of the night because I heard whispering. I looked down from my top bunk and saw Emily sitting on the floor in the dark, having a conversation with someone I couldn't see. "Yes, I understand," she was saying. "I'll do what you want. I promise." My heart started beating really fast. "Emily, who are you talking to?" I whispered. She stopped immediately, and climbed back into bed without saying anything to me. Friday morning, Mom noticed that Emily had scratches on her arms. 3 long scratches on each arm, like someone had dragged their fingernails down her skin. "Emily, what happened?" Mom asked, concerned. Emily looked at the scratches like she was seeing them for the first time. "I don't know," she said. "I woke up and they were there." Mom put bandages on them and said maybe Emily scratched herself in her sleep, but I could tell Mom was worried too. That weekend, Emily's behavior got even worse. She stopped talking to us almost completely. She'd sit at the dinner table and just stare at her food. When Mom or Dad asked her questions, she'd give one-word answers or just nod. Her eyes looked tired all the time, with big dark circles under them. Dad asked if she was feeling sick, but she said no. On Sunday, I found Emily in the basement. We never go down there much because it's old and creepy and mostly full of storage boxes. But there she was, standing in the darkest corner, facing the wall. "Emily, what are you doing down here?" I asked. She didn't turn around. "They like it down here," she said quietly. "It's dark and quiet. They can talk to me better." I felt ice run down my spine. "Who's they, Em?" She finally turned around, and her face looked so pale in the dim light. "The friends from Madison's house. They followed me home." I ran upstairs and told Mom and Dad what Emily had said. They looked at each other with worried expressions. Dad went down to get Emily and brought her back upstairs. They sat her down in the living room and asked her about these friends. "What friends, sweetie?" Mom asked gently. Emily just shook her head. "Never mind. I was just pretending." But I knew she was lying. Monday at school, I couldn't concentrate on anything. I kept thinking about Emily and how strange she'd been acting. I texted Mom during lunch to ask how Emily was doing. Mom said Emily had stayed home sick because she had a fever. When I got home that afternoon, I went straight to our room to check on her. Emily was lying in bed, but she wasn't asleep. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. "Hey Em, Mom said you're sick. How are you feeling?" She didn't answer me at first. Then, without moving her eyes from the ceiling, she said, "Jake, do you believe in demons?" The question made my blood run cold. "What? Why are you asking that?" She finally looked at me, and something about her eyes seemed wrong. "Because I think I brought one home from Madison's house." That night, things got truly terrifying. We were all sitting in the living room watching TV when suddenly every light in the house went out. Dad got up to check the breaker box, but before he could take 2 steps, all the lights came back on. Except they were flickering now, on and off, on and off. Then we heard it. A loud bang from upstairs. It sounded like something heavy had fallen. We all ran upstairs and the noise was coming from Emily's and my room. Dad opened the door and we gasped. Every drawer in our dresser was pulled out and dumped on the floor. Our closet doors were wide open and all our clothes were thrown everywhere. Our books were scattered across the room. And in the middle of all this chaos stood Emily, perfectly still, with that same blank expression on her face. "Emily, did you do this?" Dad asked, his voice shaking a little. Emily shook her head slowly. "No, Daddy. They did it. They're angry that I won't let them in completely." Mom grabbed Emily and hugged her tight. "Sweetie, you're scaring us. What are you talking about?" But Emily just started crying and wouldn't say anything else. That night, Mom and Dad let Emily sleep in their room. They were too worried to leave her alone. I tried to sleep in our room, but I kept hearing noises. Whispers that seemed to come from the walls. Footsteps when nobody was walking. I barely slept at all. The next morning, Tuesday, Dad called our priest, Father Michael. He came to our house that afternoon and talked to Emily privately. I tried to listen through the door but couldn't hear much. When Father Michael came out, his face was very serious. He talked to Mom and Dad in hushed voices. I heard him say words like spiritual attack and possible possession and we need to act quickly. That night was the worst. Emily started screaming around midnight. Not like a nightmare scream, but a scream of pure terror. We all rushed to Mom and Dad's room. Emily was standing on the bed, pointing at the corner of the room. "Don't you see them?" she was shrieking. "They're right there. All of them. They want to come inside me." Mom tried to calm her down, but Emily pushed her away with surprising strength. Dad called Father Michael and told him to come right away. While we waited for the priest, Emily's behavior got stranger and stranger. She started speaking in a language none of us understood. Her voice changed, becoming deeper and raspier. She looked at each of us with hatred in her eyes, which was terrifying because Emily had never looked at us like that before. "Your daughter is weak," she said in that terrible voice. "She invited us in. Now she's ours." Father Michael arrived with another priest, Father Thomas. They set up in Emily's room with candles, holy water, and their Bibles. They told us to wait downstairs, but I snuck up and watched from the hallway. That's when I saw it. That's when Emily's eyes rolled back and she started floating above the bed, and that awful voice came out of her mouth saying she belonged to them now. Emily crashed back down onto the bed so hard the frame cracked. Father Michael sprinkled holy water on her, and she screamed like the water was burning acid. Her skin actually started smoking where the drops landed. Father Thomas began reading prayers in Latin, his voice strong and steady, but Emily just laughed that horrible grinding laugh. Then she turned her head completely around, a full 180 degrees, so she was looking backwards at the priests, while her body faced forward. "You cannot save her," the demon voice hissed. "We are legion. We are many. And we are staying." I must have made a sound because suddenly those backwards-facing white eyes locked onto me in the hallway. Emily's mouth stretched into an impossibly wide smile. "Hello, Jake," the voice said, but it knew things only Emily would know. "Remember when you broke Mom's favorite vase and blamed it on the cat? Emily kept your secret. And this is how you repay her? Watching while we take her?" I felt sick to my stomach. Dad noticed me in the hallway and pulled me downstairs, but I could still hear everything. The screaming. The praying. Furniture being thrown around. It sounded like a war was happening in my sister's bedroom. Emily crashed back down onto the bed so hard the frame cracked. Father Michael sprinkled holy water on her, and she screamed like the water was burning acid. Her skin actually started smoking where the drops landed. Father Thomas began reading prayers in Latin, his voice strong and steady, but Emily just laughed that horrible grinding laugh. Then she turned her head completely around, a full 180 degrees, so she was looking backwards at the priests, while her body faced forward. "You cannot save her," the demon voice hissed. "We are legion. We are many. And we are staying." I must have made a sound because suddenly those backwards-facing white eyes locked onto me in the hallway. Emily's mouth stretched into an impossibly wide smile. "Hello, Jake," the voice said, but it knew things only Emily would know. "Remember when you broke Mom's favorite vase and blamed it on the cat? Emily kept your secret. And this is how you repay her? Watching while we take her?" I felt sick to my stomach. Dad noticed me in the hallway and pulled me downstairs, but I could still hear everything. The screaming. The praying. Furniture being thrown around. It sounded like a war was happening in my sister's bedroom. Mom was sitting on the couch, crying and praying. Dad held her while also trying to keep me calm, but his hands were shaking. This went on for 2 hours. 2 hours of hell. Finally, around 3 in the morning, everything went quiet. The silence was almost worse than the noise. We all held our breath, waiting. Then Father Michael came downstairs, and he looked exhausted. His face was pale and sweaty. "She's resting now," he said. "But this is not over. What's inside your daughter is very powerful. We performed a minor rite of exorcism, but we need to do a full exorcism. I need permission from the bishop, and we need to prepare." We all went upstairs to check on Emily. She was lying in bed, looking small and fragile. Her eyes were closed, and she was breathing normally. The room was a disaster. The cross on the wall was upside down. Scratches covered the walls, deep gouges in the paint. The window was cracked like something had hit it from the inside. Mom sat on the edge of the bed and stroked Emily's hair. "My baby," she whispered. "We're going to help you. I promise." The next few days were the strangest of my life. Father Michael said Emily needed to stay home from school. He also said we needed to keep religious items around the house, especially in Emily's room. We put crosses on every wall. Mom placed rosary beads under Emily's pillow. Dad read Bible verses out loud every morning and night. But the thing inside Emily seemed to hate all of it. Whenever we prayed, Emily would cover her ears and scream. When Dad tried to put a cross necklace on her, she threw it across the room so hard it dented the wall. The Emily we knew seemed to be fading away, replaced by something dark and hateful. But sometimes, just for a few seconds, the real Emily would come back. Her eyes would clear up and she'd look at us with such sadness. "I'm sorry," she'd whisper. I'm trying to fight them, but they're so strong. There are so many of them. Then her eyes would go dark again, and she'd be gone. Father Michael came back on Thursday with news. The bishop had approved the full exorcism. It would happen on Saturday night. We need 2 days to prepare, Father Michael explained. Emily needs to be evaluated by a doctor and a psychiatrist first. The church requires this to rule out medical or mental health issues. Mom and Dad took Emily to see Dr. Harrison, our family doctor, on Friday morning. I went to school but couldn't focus on anything. My best friend Tyler asked me what was wrong, and I almost told him. But how do you explain that your sister is possessed by demons? When I got home, Mom said Dr. Harrison couldn't find anything physically wrong with Emily. Her fever was gone. The scratches on her arms were healing. But the psychiatrist, Dr. Chen, was concerned. She said Emily was experiencing severe delusions and paranoia. She wanted to admit Emily to the hospital for observation. But when she tried to talk to Emily, something strange happened. Emily looked at Dr. Chen and said, "Your mother died of cancer 3 years ago. She's in hell now, screaming your name." Dr. Chen went white. "How could you possibly know that?" she whispered. Emily just smiled. Dr. Chen left quickly after that and called Father Michael. "That child knows things she couldn't know," Dr. Chen told him. "This is beyond my help." Saturday came and I'd never been more scared in my life. Father Michael arrived with Father Thomas and 2 other priests I didn't know, Father David and Father James. They brought bags of supplies: holy water, blessed oil, religious texts, crucifixes, and candles. They set everything up in Emily's room while we waited downstairs. Father Michael called us up and explained what would happen. "This will be difficult to watch," he said seriously. "The demon or demons inside Emily will try to break your faith. They will say horrible things. They will try to make you doubt God. You must stay strong and keep praying no matter what happens." The exorcism began at 8 o'clock that night. The 4 priests surrounded Emily's bed. She was tied down with straps because Father Michael said she might hurt herself or others. At first, Emily seemed normal, just scared. "I don't want to do this," she cried. "Please don't hurt me." Mom almost ran to her, but Father Michael stopped her. "That's not your daughter speaking," he said. "That's the demon trying to manipulate you. Your real daughter wants this. She wants to be free." Father Michael began the prayers, and immediately Emily's whole body went rigid. Her eyes rolled back again. That terrible voice came out, but this time it was even worse. It wasn't just one voice. It was many voices talking at once, some high, some low, all of them filled with hate. "We will not leave. This girl is ours. We were invited. We have every right to be here." Father Thomas sprinkled holy water, and Emily's skin sizzled and smoked. She screamed in agony, but the priests kept praying. What happened next was like something from a nightmare. The temperature in the room dropped so fast we could see our breath. The lights flickered and some of them exploded, showering glass everywhere. The bed Emily was strapped to started shaking violently, moving across the floor. Objects flew through the air, books and toys and furniture, all on their own. A lamp hit Father David in the shoulder, but he didn't stop praying. The voices coming from Emily got louder and louder, screaming curses and threats in different languages. Then Emily started levitating again, rising up from the bed, but this time the straps held her body down while her back arched upward in a bridge position that should have broken her spine. Black liquid started oozing from her mouth, thick and oily, dripping down her chin. The smell was horrible, like rotting meat and sulfur. Mom was sobbing, Dad was praying, and I was just frozen, unable to look away from what was happening to my sister. Father Michael raised his voice, commanding the demons to tell him their names. "I command you in the name of Jesus Christ, tell me who you are." The voices laughed, that awful grinding sound. "We are the abandoned ones. The forgotten. The angry. We are those who lived in the walls of the old house. The girl played our game. She called us. She let us in." Father Thomas joined in, reading from the book of exorcism prayers. The more they prayed, the more violent Emily became. She broke one of the straps and her arm shot out, grabbing Father James by the throat. It took all 3 other priests to pry her hand off. Her strength was inhuman, impossible for a 12-year-old girl. When they finally freed Father James, there were deep red marks on his neck. "Kill me!" Emily's voice suddenly changed, becoming softer, younger, scared. It was really her. "Please, just kill me. I can't fight them anymore. They're everywhere inside me. They're eating me from the inside out." Mom screamed. "No! Emily, hold on! Fight them, baby!" The priests prayed harder, faster. They blessed Emily with oil, making the sign of the cross on her forehead. She shrieked like they were branding her with hot iron. "The power of Christ compels you!" Father Michael shouted. "Leave this child! You have no authority here! In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I command you to leave!" The room shook like an earthquake. The windows rattled. Cracks appeared in the ceiling. Then suddenly, Emily started convulsing. Her whole body shook and twisted. The black liquid poured from her mouth like a waterfall. The voices were screaming now, angry and desperate. "No! We will not go! She is ours! We claimed her!" But the priests didn't stop. They surrounded Emily, all 4 of them praying at once, holding crosses above her, pouring holy water on her thrashing body. This went on for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. Then, just when I thought I couldn't take any more, there was a sound like a thunderclap. A blast of cold wind rushed through the room, blowing out all the candles. In the darkness, we heard Emily scream one final time, but it was different. It was her real voice, filled with pain and relief. Then silence. Father Michael lit a candle with shaking hands. In the flickering light, we saw Emily lying still on the bed, the straps broken around her. Her eyes were closed. "Emily?" Mom whispered, afraid to hope. Emily's eyes opened slowly, and they were her normal brown eyes again. Tears ran down her cheeks. "Mom?" she said in her own voice, weak but real. "Is it over? Are they gone?" Father Michael checked her carefully, saying prayers and watching for any signs the demons were still there. After several minutes, he nodded. "I believe the main entity has been expelled. But Emily is very weak. She's been through a terrible ordeal." We rushed to Emily, and she fell into Mom's arms, crying. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't know. At Madison's house, we found this old game in the basement. It was like a Ouija board but older. Madison dared me to play it. We asked if any spirits were there, and something answered. It told us its name was Legion. It said it could give us anything we wanted. I thought it was just a game. I didn't believe it was real. But then it followed me home. It got inside my head. And it brought others with it." Dad held us all, and we cried together as a family. The priests cleaned up the room as best they could, gathering their supplies. Father Michael pulled my parents aside. "Emily is free from possession, but she's been traumatized. She'll need counseling, spiritual guidance, and a lot of love and patience. What she experienced was real evil. It will take time for her to heal." He looked at all of us seriously. "And you must never, ever play with occult objects again. These things are not games. They are doorways to real darkness." We thought it was over. We thought Emily was safe. The priests left around midnight, and we all stayed together in the living room. Nobody wanted to be alone. Emily fell asleep on the couch between Mom and Dad, holding both their hands. I sat in the chair across from them, watching my sister sleep peacefully for the first time in weeks. She looked like herself again. The dark circles under her eyes were still there, but her face was relaxed. She wasn't having nightmares. For the first time since this all started, I felt hope. But then, at exactly 3 in the morning, Emily's eyes snapped open. Except they weren't her eyes anymore.